Welcome, everyone, to JWC Livestream. For a bunch of reasons, today's another read show. Someone had a dental emergency. So today we are going to read Nidhogg Chronicles. It's chapter 2. It's a continuation from yesterday. Yesterday we read chapter 1, which was called Elra's Failure. This is chapter 2 of Nidhogg Chronicles, Crusade of Shadows by Richard Andrew Olkus. Nidhogg woke from a perfect night of sweet dreams, the contents of which were pure fantasy. In them, she was with James, had the body of a late-stage hybrid, and her and James had many successful progeny they both loved. The excellence of this bliss state could not be overstated. Then the waking came, the crush of her own frozen, desolate reality. A birthing meat factory in the whirlwind of hyperdimensional collapse. Nothing could be more soul-crushing than finding out that wakeful life was the nightmare, and all you hope to attain would never be. In this state of mind, Nidhogg filed out of the saucer with Indrid and a team of greys to seek a green one who supposedly lived in the deep elder forest of the old country. They landed somewhere in Eastern Europe, where the humans believed correctly that blood-sucking phantoms once roamed the countryside. That was long ago. The craft lay far behind them as Nidhogg and the team pushed on through brambles and the smell of bogged-up logs, with all sounds of natural life fallen into ominous silence at their unearthly approach. Ruins of structures long naturalized came and went amid the smothering vegetation, so that it seemed a place almost there, but mostly wiped away by the seasons. That was when Nidhogg beheld her. The voice of a rising wind brought a sweeter air amid a nymph's laughter. All that was spoiled by stagnation and decay passed, yielding to a clear water lake rippling with the light of a single huge orange moon, freshly risen. A single being hovered over that rippling water, illuminated by the moon and casting an otherworldly light of her own. She did not seem human, but rather superhuman or otherwise sublimated. The flesh was olive-colored, the hair moss-green, with highlights of mint and barky brown. Her eyes as bright as the moon, yet scintillating like starlight. She wore a gown of native spin, but she could have worn a garbage bag and still been gorgeous as a meteor shower. Indrid and the Greys engaged the green one, hailing her timidly, dealing with the nature of such an entity who took everything that was presented to it in merriness and gaiety. Even dunderheaded Indrid seemed to be stumbling over his own feet around the green one, but all she did was laugh and smile, waving to Nidhogg with a fire of community sparkling within those ghostly eyes. Something softened in Nidhogg, a hollow implosion which felt twisted, broke apart, and she began to weep. Red tears ran down her smooth, pale face, and the green one's face did not stir from bliss, but the eyes perceived Nidhogg's pain in life, being empathically connected by the collective, and so aware of how things were for a hybrid such as she. The green one beamed a ray of splendor over Nidhogg, and she had to turn away from the hovering nymph in order to keep from collapsing into a sobbing lamentation. Nidhogg strode off toward the swamp, clasping a hand onto her own breast in order to regain composure. It was this place, this moment, came true like a child's wish made real by the architects of justice. This place felt like the dream, seemed as pure and vivid as when she and James were laying together, cherishing each other's proximity without any wrong or anything missing. It felt perfect. The Green One's subtle broadcast shed a heavenly light onto Nidhogg, briefly taking her up into the comforting arms of those who could one day gaze upon the Creator. This was actual asentience, the oneness of absolute being that came with being counted among the saved. Nidhogg was an unclean being, lost in some catastrophic argument between cosmic workers and their boss, a slave to counter-orthodoxy, the kind that promised no hope or honesty, but just went on and on into a repulsive mystery of forever. The feeling departed as the business with the Green One concluded. Nidhogg turned to find Indrid and the Greys strolling up to her, a look of sheepish deadness playing on the MIB's face as he drew near. As they approached, Nidhogg felt the asentience vanish completely, the oneness replaced by a wall of zeroness. It was the desentience, the difference between a yellow sun and a black sun, between heaven and hell. That which ascended gave charity, that which descended gave territory, and it took a cut out of vitality while doing so. This was behind the collective's game and why they did what they did, but Nidhogg did not have all the pieces and so lacked a big picture. The desentience is the reason for her own hybridization, for the great change, and somehow responsible for failed pairings like her and James. It was all being forced into place, cutting against the grain, warped into naked distortion before the sleeping eyes of the world. Fools who believed themselves a superior species stumbled in the darkness, lost and soon to be damned. Nidhogg felt the desentience in herself, in the saucer parked a ways off, and in the night all around them. Its force spun the stars, turned the zodiac, and sucked void between the beats of every living heart. It was the debt of life, taking and taking, despite never having lived itself. The collective fit into this mindset perfectly, as if drawn out of it by the roots. Take, take, take. Nidhogg sensed the great controller prompting them to return to the saucer, prodding them on to further labors so that they wouldn't miss any more stops on the endless list. Apparently, progress reports looked real ugly for her crew, and so conditions would need to be modified. There simply was no other choice, and there never would be. Nidhogg looked back roundly into the darkness where the Green One had been hovering. She was gone now, but the memory of her aura stirred the imagination. What would it take to gain the favor of such a one? Allowing for a constant supply of the asentient spirit radiation, which could offset Nidhogg's desentient surplus. The Green One's breeding was pure, being more astral fire than actual flesh and blood, and yet there must be some way to get a handhold on her. Wicked fantasies of the Green One lashed together at the wrists and ankles buffeted Nidhogg's third eye, enough to provoke a flailing response from the collective. They did not approve, or rather did not wish for such to happen to the Green One, though the overall notion would no doubt befall another less valued piece of stock. Indrid and the Greys led her up to the saucer's ingress, and as if stunned by all she left behind, Nidhogg blundered past them and up the ramp. She craved solitude, or what passed for it, yet she knew that the workload would never allow for it. They found themselves in the central hub, and Indrid spoke into the unwelcoming silence surrounding their takeoff. Mistress, our next stop will be involving Edward, your breeder. Are you fit to see him, or... Nidhogg felt a sneer twist her features, awaking out of a stupefaction into anger by the MIB's idiocy. Indrid, I believe that the collective cares if I'm ready for anything. And if not, could you shut up about what's powerless in my life? I'm reminded of it every time I walk to this drudgery, and your half-baked observations of it all save me from that at least. Nidhogg snarled at them, projected her wish for an immediate drop-off at Edward's apartment complex into the local field. The gray controller made it so. In a blink of dark light, they traveled over the east coast of North America, passing into invisibility just before military radar could have stumbled upon them. This great controller went by the book, though others Nidhogg worked with over the years were not always so disciplined. Soon she found herself on the roof of Edward's building, being whisked away on folded light. It was a hop, skip, and jump down the fire escape and into range of Edward's mind. His was a weird sort of brain, one that did not always fall for the usual tricks. With him, it was almost work, unlike Alvin, who she played like a piano. Edward sat on his couch, watching a streaming service, his thoughts wildly wandering to Nidhogg and her many previous encounters. His way was different from all the rest, seeming to prefer her hybrid form and not showing the slightest fear at either her presence or her touch. Something about it might have stirred Nidhogg if she didn't already hate as completely as she did. Humans always brought her back to James or her own non-human features, which damned their togetherness. Either way, it stung deep inside and made Nidhogg dry up. In a twinkling of an eye, she was standing in his kitchen and thought to toy with him by rummaging through his cupboards. The clank and clatter drew him, believing her to be his cat, Snoogles, being unruly. His face showed no sign of upset, instead giving her a tiny smile, signifying gladdened acceptance. In a near whisper, he spoke, the sound of cell phone buzzing on the coffee table just above his voice. I was just thinking about you. It's been a while. How have you been? How are our young? Nidhogg studied Edward as he spoke, searching desperately for the first signs of freak-out or insincerity. He beamed compassion, honestly feeling feelings, truly wishing to learn about his inquiries. Nidhogg's voice was as calm as she could make it, though this still scratched at the ears with its typical hiss. They are excelling, doing what they were meant for. Don't worry about them. Our young are strong and well received. They will be instrumental in the new age's dawning. Edward nodded at the good tidings, but expected something more. What about you, Nidhogg? Are you well? The deep meow of Snoogles the cat saved her from responding. Edward picked his pet up and brought him over to where Nidhogg stood by the oven. He tried to get them to bond, but the cat wouldn't have it, growling, then struggling and leaping out of his grasp. At the very moment, the collective reached out in a groping fashion, wishing to inform Nidhogg that she would be required to harvest more of Edward for a future gestation. Well, at least one of them would be pleased that night. She wove a powerful bolt of neural engagement, sweeping Edward off his feet and into the bedroom. There, the act was quick and painless, with him being more free with his efforts than during previous couplings. He truly did want her, maybe even loved her, but Nidhogg could not feel it through the emotional ice impacted around her heart. When they were done, she put Edward to sleep, granting him gentle rest and sweet dreams of her and their family that would never be. Nidhogg walked through his apartment, briefly locking eyes with Snoogles, who returned her stare as if ready to attack. The crawler, back on the saucer, would eat this flabby cat one bite, but then Edward would be upset. As much as she wanted to see the cat dead, she would not be the cause of it. Not yet, anyway. Nidhogg strolled into the dark light beam, and walked into the saucer's med lab. The Greys examined her on the metal table typically reserved for Mindy and her like. The cool metal meeting flesh brought much of Nidhogg's anger back to resurface fitfully. Soon she would conceive and gestate. Soon the program would have yet another specimen. So that was chapter 2, titled The Green One, read from Nidhogg Chronicles, Crusade of Shadows by Richard Andrew Olkus. If you like what you heard, I've been reading it. You can go back to our channel on YouTube and check out previous weeks where other chapters are waiting. I'm going to try to do this read pretty consistently, mostly on Mondays. And I'll drop a link in case anyone wants to buy the book for themselves. I would appreciate that. Thank you. Go to joeswritersclub.com and check out our author pages and our blogs. Sign up at joeswriters.club for our forums. Go to our social media, JWC on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and others. And most importantly, please head to our YouTube channel, JWC, that's Joe's Writers Club YouTube. Our live stream, JWC Livestream, is on there. Please like and subscribe and share with people who you think would be into it. We're all about creativity. We're all about writing fiction, as you just heard, all kinds of crazy fiction. Thanks a lot for listening. And you guys stay creative. Take care. We'll